Gameplan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Bring you our FBS College Football Game of the Week preview between the Florida State Seminoles and the Clemson Tigers. Now let's take a look at some keys to victory for both teams, starting with the Seminoles.
When you look at Florida State in this matchup, running the football neutralizes the Tigers' pressure, and Florida State goes 3 deep in that backfield, so I would lean on the running game a little bit more so this week versus the Tigers. And quarterback Jameis Winston must do a lot pre-snap this week versus Clemson, identifying the blitz, getting into the right protection, checking out of bad plays in order for this offense to have success. And when you look at the Florida State defense, Clemson puts a lot of pressure on your slot defenders to make tackles in space, which is why I believe safeties Terrence Brooks and Jalen Ramsey, who's a true freshman, are going to have huge games this week versus the Tigers. And also your nickel and dime defenders, your outside linebackers, they're going to have to make those one-on-one plays in space in order to get these guys off the field. Now let's move over to Clemson in this ballgame, and offensively speaking, they're going to have to expand the field and work the individual matchups versus Florida State in order to have success. And I would utilize the backs in the passing game. So try to get Roderick McDowell out there in space one-on-one with the linebacker to create an advantage. And on the defensive side of the football, I would find creative ways to utilize that athleticism that you have in the front seven. Right now, Clemson has one of the more athletic and talented front sevens in college football, and defensive end Vic Beasley is playing out of his mind. They also have one of the better linebackers in the country, is Stephon Anthony. You have to get creative with that type of athleticism versus the Seminoles. And outside of the cornerbacks winning individual matchups, the linebackers must dominate in the intermediate passing game in order for you to have a chance to knock off Florida State. Now here are some coaching points for both teams in this ball game. For Florida State, you want to control the line of scrimmage, and I will make this more of a downhill game as opposed to horizontal. You do have the advantage up front, and Clemson has the advantage with the athleticism in the front seven. Run downhill, don't have these guys going sideline to sideline, and I would work tight end Nick O'Leary in the ball game early. He's a guy that can help you neutralize the middle of the field in the passing game, and that defensive line must keep these linebackers clean of Florida State so that way they could play downhill and make stops at or behind the line of scrimmage. For Clemson in this ballgame, I would run weak side versus Florida State. You have the advantage with the numbers, and also Roderick McDowell does a great job of making one miss in the hole. So I would run weak side versus Florida State, and more waggle and less sprint out for Taj Boyd. You want to take advantage of his ability to be on the move, but you don't want to sprint him out and give him half the field to work with. Allow him to waggle, which is a slow sprint out, set up, and have the entire field to work with in the passing game. You want to finish the play on defense. So far this season, Jameis Winston has done a great job extending the play, creating opportunities once they break down. So if you're going to get back there in the pocket, you have to make sure you put him on the ground. Otherwise, he's going to burn you for big plays downfield. The X factor for the Seminoles will be their offensive line. Like I've said before, they have the size advantage over Clemson, but Clemson does have the athleticism advantage, and they will probably get creative up front with different game stunts and blitz pressures to try to confuse what they do up front as far as protection is concerned, so that offensive line will have to have their A game this week versus Clemson. And the X factor for Clemson will be their offensive execution. When you're going against a team like Florida State that does a great job in getting teams off the field and also chewing up the TOP, you have to execute flawlessly on offense in order to have a chance. And you have a lot of weapons, so you have to make sure you take full advantage of those opportunities when they present themselves. Now here are some 2014 draft prospects you want to keep an eye on in this ballgame. And as expected, both teams have a lot of prospects on both sides of the ball. One new prospect that has entered our list for Florida State has been Telvin Smith, the linebacker at 6'3", 215 pounds. Ignore his size. This is a guy that can play the run as well as he can play the pass. Very good prospect. And for Clemson, all eyes will be on that front seven on the defensive side of the football with Corey Crawford, Vic Beasley, Stephon Anthony, and Spencer Shuey. All four guys, in my opinion, are top 2 or 3 round type prospects in next year's draft. And when we look at that offensive line, Brandon Thomas and Tyler Shatley, 2 of the best offensive linemen in the country. Terrell Buckley was an outstanding cornerback for Florida State from 1989 to 1991. He is the school's all-time interception leader with 21, was a 2-time All-American, and also brought back 7 returns for touchdowns, 4 off of interceptions, 3 off of punt returns, and also was a member of the baseball and track team. Banks McFadden is definitely a campus legend for the Clemson Tigers from 1936 to 1939. He was a 3-sport letterman, and in 1939 was named the AP Athlete of the Year and was also a 2-time All-American on the basketball team. I like the Tigers to win this ball game. I look at their offensive line being a huge asset to what they want to do offensively. Quiet as kept, Clemson's offensive line does a great job at moving teams off the ball, and I think they actually can have some success versus Florida State. And on the defensive side, they match up very well across the board versus the Seminoles. So I think the Clemson Tigers will win this ball game, and what would be another classic matchup between two ACC Titans.